Hi everyone, it's Ed from Runnable, and this is my race review of the Puma Fast-R Nitro Elite 3. Now I took these shoes on a half marathon in Richmond Park today, and in this video I'll let you know how I got on in this shoe over that distance. I'll also let you know what I liked about the shoe, what I didn't like so much about the shoe, and I'll go through some key categories around the shoe to give you an idea of whether this shoe could be a good running shoe for you. At the end of the video, I'm going to let you know whether I think I would recommend this for your half marathons and potentially marathons, and I will give you an idea of what other race distances this could be good for. Everyone, it's Ed from Runnable. I've arrived at Richmond Park. I'm at the Sheen Gate, ready for the run through half marathon that's here. My legs feel terrible, but I'm not going to moan, as I always say. Ed, stop moaning, and let's have it. On my feet today, I've got, there you go, Puma Fast-R Nitro Elite 3. So I've been using the Rays a lot recently, and now it's time to test these Pumas out again over a longer distance to get my feeling for New York, and whether these will be my New York marathon shoe. But I've got to get ready now because I've got a lot to do. I've got to sort out the backdrop, I've got to get my number, etc, etc. So I'll see you soon. Love you all. Bye bye. And stand by actually for some I won't do any race footage, get some event village footage, and then I'll catch up with you at the end of the race, let you know how it's gone. Well, see you later. Bye. Let's have it.
I'm at the front, so we're going to walk down. Let's give these guys a round of applause, guys.
Let's have it. Right, all done, and I won. I got the victory. Oh, wrong way around. First place, guys, first place. Yeah, it went well today. I'd never run that course before. I now know that maybe the Puma Fast-R Nitro Elite 3s were not the best choice. That open plate was getting a real bashing from the stones and rocks. So for those that never run Richmond before, you've got roughly, you've got 4 laps of obviously roughly 5 and a bit K. And for the first part of each lap, you're basically on like trail-like surface with loose rocks going through woods, bits of ups, bits of downs. So the first sort of 2.5 K is pretty tricky, and then you hit the tarmac, and then it's slightly downhill, so you just fly down that bit. So the shoes were amazing on the downward tarmac bits, but really hard work on the gravelly, compacted mud surfaces. So that said, I think I ran 1:19 something, which on this course I think is for me pretty good, and to get first place was beyond what I thought I would be able to do today. There's a guy that kept closing in on me, and I thought he was going to catch me on the last lap, but I just managed to hang on. He only finished a few seconds behind me in the end. I'm really struggling at the end. But I think that means I'm just about where I want to be in for the New York Marathon, and it hasn't dissuaded me from these shoes. Actually, I think they're still a good bet, because on the tarmac they really helped me really pick up pace and really open my stride. And that's the thing with these shoes, really encourage you to open that stride, engage that full carbon plate and the tip of the plate. Yeah, I just thought all in all, for half of the race today, good pick. For half of it, terrible pick. And I would probably have done better with a more stable shoe today. Maybe something like the other Puma, the Puma Deviate Nitro Elite 3 might have been a better choice today. But anyway, pretty much delighted with how it's gone today. To win a race, to get 1:19, to go under 1:20, all in all, and to do it, feeling pretty good. I don't feel too beaten up at the end, just a bit stiff. And but anyway, I'll do the full review of the shoes, let you know how they performed, and give you the lowdown on what I think good about them, what's not so good, and Richmond Park, the race itself, whether I'd recommend it or not. I love you all. See you soon. Bye bye. Well done. Come on. Great finish. They need your support. Every clap, every cheer. Let's cheer. Well done. Finish line, guys. Well done, boys. Absolutely smashed it. Go and treat yourself to a well-deserved marathon. Well done, mate. Keep going. Over there by the tent. Well done, mate. So without further ado, let's go through some key stats around the shoe. So you've got a very lightweight 200 grams in my UK size 9.5. I went up half a size. You probably don't need to do that in this shoe. It runs a bit long. I did it because it looked very narrow in the pictures that I saw, and I've got a wide foot. So actually for me, the half size probably works out pretty well, particularly as I plan to use these over longer distances like half marathons like today, but also marathons potentially. I've got these as a potential option for my New York marathon. I've got these Ray Tokyos from Asics as a potential other option for that New York marathon. It's mainly these two that I'm thinking about, possibly the Adidas Pro 4. I might fit in one more race just to see how I got on with that shoe. But I think this is a front runner at the moment. And one of the reasons I think that is because really lovely shoe to run it. And some of the reasons for that are this amazingly lightweight upper. It's got this really lightweight mesh upper that you can see through there. It's got decent laces. They're quite stretchy. And when you tie them, don't get particularly loose. You've got quite a thin tongue. That's probably one of the downsides of this shoe. It is so lightweight, but things like the tongue, I think, are pretty hard to keep in place. You've got like a semi-rigid heel counter, and you've got minimal padding around the collar and counter. It's just enough to keep your foot nicely in place. There isn't a lot of structure to this upper. You get a little bit sidewalls here, but nothing much. And as I said, you've got a bit of a structured heel counter that wraps around the back of your heel here. So all in all, I absolutely love this upper. I have a real problem with my toes during races. Often they move forward and they push against the front of the toe box, and I often get really sore toes by the end of races. In this shoe, I don't get any of that. They feel pretty good. I mean, maybe a tiny bit sore, but compared to some of the other shoes, actually they were a lot more sore after the race. I had a 20-mile race I did in the Ray, actually, basically because this upper holds my foot nicely in place in the midfoot area, so it doesn't slide too much forward. So all in all, for me, it's one of the best uppers out there. I would say a 5 out of 5 upper. The only thing you could improve it is you could make the tongue a bit longer and a bit of padding so you can really cinch down those laces. That's the only thing, but I'm kind of nitpicking a little bit here. I think Puma have got a really nice breathable upper that's really malleable and wraps around your foot lovely. And I wouldn't like to see many changes to this upper on the next version of this shoe. So that's the upper. Outsole, here's where you could get some improvements. Okay, so you can already see massive dints everywhere in this outsole. Right, to be fair, today I ran in what could be called a bit of a trail course. I've never run the Richmond Half Marathon before. I assumed it was going to be on pretty flat, compacted mud or tarmac, and that was the case for quite a bit of it, but there was also long stretches of gravel, which this was a bit of a nightmare on. You can see that it's started to get some severe dints, which worries me about the durability of this. B, this exposed plate took an absolute hammering from those rocks. So it reduces the versatility of this shoe because that plate is so exposed. That means you really shouldn't be taking it on those kind of races. I just about got away with it today, but quite often on those stretches I had to slow a little bit, watch my footing, because I was really worried I was going to snap this plate in many places. And then the heel, You've got this forefoot, which is fantastic and wide. The heel is less so. And you've got this decoupled outsole here with this gap in between. And I think generally I'd like to see potentially this gap filled in a little bit so that plate is not so exposed. But all in all, it's still a good outsole in the sense that it grips well and you've got enough of a platform here to land and feel secure. But I'm slightly worried about the wear, how it's wearing. You can just look at the state of it there. It's really wearing. I'm worried about that, and the exposed plate means that it lacks a bit of versatility for the type of courses you can run on, use this for. So with all those in mind, I'm going to give this a 4 out of 5 for the outsole. You know, it still scores high because it is very effective on the right course. You know, some flat tarmac, and the tarmac bits of the course that I ran in, this outsole really came to life, and the midsole as well, which we'll talk about in a minute. It was just in those trails, those woodlands, that I didn't feel I was engaging the plate so much, and I felt like I was completely ruining this outsole, which I was. So midsole now, and I think this is the, you know, as much as I love the upper, I think this is the genius of this shoe. So I don't think I mentioned it before, but you've got 40mm stack height in the heel. You've got a 32mm stack height in the forefoot, giving you that 8mm drop. It feels flatter than that. It feels like one of the more flatter super shoes that I own, actually. It feels far more flatter than the Ray Tokyo. Even though this is a softer foam and compresses more, this one feels far more flatter. So I land around here, and although it does feel kind of flat when you land, you get this really nice roll through from the geometry. It's got quite an aggressive early stage rocker, so it's kind of nice if you're actually on good form and you're running quite quickly. I think this geometry really works. The fact that this foam is a bit firmer, certainly a lot firmer than the FF Elite that's in both Aliphatic TPU, by the way, but this is really soft Aliphatic TPU. With the Aliphatic TPU, this Nitro Elite foam that's in the Puma Fast-R Nitro Elite 3, it's a lot more dense, but it's still bouncy, but you don't feel like you're sinking in at all in this shoe, which I love. I feel like I land, I get a nice compression, I feel the plate engaging, even though it's a low configuration, I do feel that plate engaging, and if I'm really on form, I feel this tip. I'm able to engage that tip and get a nice twang from the plate. If you're really flying, there is no better midsole out there than this midsole, because of how you engage that plate and how you get that nice spring forward. And the foam itself is absolutely fantastic. This Aliphatic TPU, you get such good energy return from this shoe. So all in all, 5 out of 5 midsole. It's pretty much, well, I mean, the leap in this Tokyo, Ray Tokyo, is extraordinary as well. These two are pretty much up there as two of my favourite midsoles in any running shoes. Cielo X1 2.0 as well. That's Puma based, and that is amazing as well. Those three for me have taken over from all the other midsoles there that are out on the marketplace, all the other foams. This one there has just been designed with efficiency in mind. It's pretty much my most efficient running shoe. It might not be the nicest to run in. It feels a bit mechanical, feels a bit disconnected because of this gap here, but boy, is it effective. When you land, you get this, like I said, nice compression, decompression, roll through and toe spring. And if you can gauge this tip here, you'll get a real nice, like I said, twang from the plate that really drives you forward. So that midsole is incredible. Like I said, 5 out of 5. Stability, as long as you're landing up here, this is a very stable shoe. In fact, it's got no structure whatsoever in the upper, means that's quite remarkable, but you do get this really nice landing pad. The problems you're going to have is when you're landing midfoot or further back. Midfoot, obviously, you're going to have to hope the ground is a bit better than the ground I was running on today. Not gravelly, because you're going to hammer the hell out of that plate. And obviously at the back, you've got a much narrower area to land on than the forefoot. So it's always going to be a little bit more unstable. What I would say though, because the foam is a little bit firmer and because you've got that stabilizing plate, it doesn't feel terrible for heel striking, but it's just obviously been built for people to land somewhere up here. So that's stability. There are no real stability features in this shoe. It's a neutral shoe. What you can see is a slight sole flare here, just to give you that wider landing pad. So that's stability. Durability now, stability I'll score probably 3.5 out of 5. It's pretty good, but not obviously not the best, particularly if you're landing around here or further back. Now, durability is going to score badly for because of the mess that's going on here. At the moment, it doesn't feel like it's taking any performance out of the shoe, but I am worried that this is going to wear through pretty quick, and I can't see this lasting more than maybe my New York Marathon if I use it, and a couple of more halves, and then I think I'll be looking for a new pair. So I'm also constantly worried about cracking this plate, and generally I just feel like it's not the most durable of shoes. So I'm going to score this probably around 3 out of 5. I'm probably being a bit generous there, but as I said, at the moment the foam itself, the properties of the foam itself aren't being impacted by the state of this outsole. So that's durability. Speed, 5 out of 5. It's my quickest shoe, I think. Cielo X1 2.0 is right up there. The Ray's not far behind, but this is, I just think it's got the edge over those two. Particularly, like I said, when you're running fast, you're engaging the plate, you're hitting the ground hard, you're lengthening that stride, and this shoe really wants you to lengthen that stride, but also increase your cadence and really engage this tip here. And when you're right up at the forefoot, right up at the end there, you really engage the end of this plate. And like I said, I keep saying, I'll say it again, you get that really nice twang from the plate that really throws you forward. So for me, as long as you've got good form, you're really landing somewhere up here, you will absolutely fly in this shoe. And it's pretty much, I've got mates who are using it or getting PBs left, right and centre in it over 5k. I think it's going to be a lethal shoe over that kind of distance. I think it would be a good 1 mile all the way up to marathon shoe. For those shorter distances, I think it's unrivaled. Half marathons, I think other shoes like the Ray, like the Hoka Cielo X1 2.0 come into play a little bit more. And the marathon, again, I think it's got some competition. But what I love about this shoe is the more you run in it, the more lively it gets. And you can't say that about a lot of shoes. So I think generally speaking, this is one of the fastest shoes out there on the marketplace. And if it's something that you take to, it suits the way you run, then it's going to really help you get the most out of your running races, because it really will. It's one of those shoes that if you're feeling good, you put this on and this rewards you. Talk about value for money. So one of the downsides of this shoe is how expensive it is and how hard it is to get. It retailed at $260, which is a lot of money. I'll have a little beer actually. Which is a lot of money, but I think for certain shoes it's worth it, and I think this is one of them. It's a rare breed, this shoe. You can't really get many shoes like this. I think the Alpha 3 is similar. I mean, this in many ways reminds me of the Alpha 1 crossed over with the Sky Paris. Those two shoes together, you've got something like this, more mechanical, nature of the Alphafly, and that more of that springy toe spring that you get with the Sky Paris or even the Sky Tokyo. So all in all, I think this is a wonderful shoe. I think, you know, even though it's £260, I think you can make a case, a justification for getting this shoe, particularly as like the Alphafly 3 costs even more than that, right? Let's go with what this shoe is good for. So I think this is one of the most versatile running shoes out there on the marketplace. I think it's a real speed merchant at that 1 mile to 5k. I think it's really effective at 10k, although weirdly I've not raced many 10ks in this shoe, just one. I got 30 something in it at Hampton Court. And that was a terrible course for this shoe. Again, a bit like Richmond Park today. This exposed plate got a battering, but I think it's a very effective shoe for 10k. I think half marathon, as I proved today, we'll talk a bit about the race in a minute. This was a really effective shoe, and over the marathon distance, I get the feeling that this will be a really great shoe, something that will just keep you going when your legs fatigue later on in the marathon. You just stretch your legs out and just go with it. Try and cruise in this shoe, and I think it will react well. Even when your form starts to lose it a little bit, I think there's enough pad here, landing area here, to make it feel a bit more stable than something like the Ray would feel when you're starting to lose it. So that's what it's good for. So overall, do I think this would be a worthwhile purchase? So I think this is one of the best running shoes out there on the marketplace. I think for £260, it's a lot of money, but I do think it would be money well spent, given how expensive other running shoes are. This one's £265, so £5 more. The Sky Tokyo and Edge Tokyos are £245, so, you know, although this is cost more money, I think this is probably a little bit better than those two shoes, in my opinion. I think the Hoka Cielo X1 2.0 is an interesting shoe. You can get that down at £175 now, and I think that would be an interesting one. You know, at that price, I would be tempted to go with that shoe, and maybe I'll do a comparison with this shoe and the Hoka at some point soon. But 170 or £75, I think I would probably be tempted to go with the Hoka. But in terms of pure performance, if you've got the money, then I don't think this can be beaten, to be honest. As I've just said, over all those race ranges, I think this is one of the best shoes at 5k, 10k, half marathon, marathon. I think it excels in all of those, arguably the best in all of those. And I just feel like, although it's a little bit further than maybe I would traditionally like, I think it's absolutely fine over those distances. Like I did a half marathon today. My legs weren't screaming, my foot wasn't complaining. It just felt really nice, firm and responsive, and that's kind of how you want it. You get more stability because of the firmer foam, and you're less likely to turn an ankle because of that. So that's what I think. I think, honestly, you can't go wrong with this shoe. It's obviously better if you're landing up here, but it's not the end of the world if you're a heel striker. Just beware if you're a midfoot striker. You're landing in the most vulnerable area in terms of damaging the plate, and also you've got these gaps to contend with. Now let's just talk very quickly about the race itself. So Richmond Park Half Marathon. It's a lovely course. It was a lovely day today. So you watch the run footage if you haven't already. You'll see it was nice and sunny. You do 4 loops, like mini loops within Richmond Park. I'm guessing, I've never done the park run, but I'm guessing some of it is on the same route as the park run. You do the hilly section first, where you go through some woods. That can be a bit challenging, like I said, with loose gravel. You've got to watch your landing in those areas. But all in all, challenging, but not too challenging. Once you get through that though, you hit this kind of section where you can see a road and it's tarmacked and you can really fly in those sections. And I was using those sections to get the best out of these shoes. And these shoes really did react when I was putting my foot down hard and going for it and lengthening my stride. I felt these coming to life. So that section of the 5K loop was great. And then you would do that, like I said, you do that 4 times with a little bit extra at the end to the finish line. And yeah, I thought it was a really nice course, challenging, undulating, but nothing too ridiculous. I didn't feel it wasn't like Finsbury Park Half Marathon, which is a killer. It's not that bad. It's not a PB course, but it's not that bad. And I did okay. I got 1:19.50 something, and I won the race. I should get my medal actually. One sec. Okay, so here's the medal. You see there, first place. Yeah, and I was delighted to obviously win it. I was getting caught by some guy actually. I had a big lead after about 5K. And then I must have had about a minute lead after 5K. And then little by each lap, he kind of ate in to it by about 20 seconds. So basically right near the end, he was right on my arse. I don't mean that in a weird way. He was right behind me at the end, and I was just having to struggle to keep going. I was managing to get away from him a little bit on the downhills, but he was coming back hard on me on the uphill. So it was a real fight. That last lap was a real struggle to keep ahead of him. But my mental toughness went, I said to myself, Ed, I'm not going to lose this. I've been leading all the way, literally from about 200 meters. I was leading that race. I led all the way. I just thought, I'm not going to give up now. I'm not going to give this up and let him catch me at the end. And this shoe really helped me just dig in and it responded just when I needed to on that final stretch near the road, where I was able to really put my foot down and just keep ahead of this guy who's amazing runner in himself. There's an amazing runner called Melissa Gibson there. She came 4th. She went flying out the traps actually, and I caught her after about 200 meters, but she maintained it and came 4th. And I had a nice chat with Adam May at the end, and there's a picture of me and him. He came 3rd, and he's a great runner as well. So some good runners out there. I highly recommend it. It's a run-through event, and yeah, I can't really say more than that. I hope this has been interesting for you. If any of you have still yet to try this out, highly recommend it. I think an orange colorway has just come out, so you might be able to get it. I know it's been hard to get hold of this shoe, but hopefully you'll be able to get it now. And yeah, £260, it's a lot of money, but to be honest, there aren't many better shoes than this one out there. I prefer it definitely to the Sky and Edge Tokyo. It's right up there with the Ray. This is my decision I have to make. Maybe in the comments, try and predict which of these two I'm going to go for, because they are both brilliant shoes. Depends on how I'll do my research on New York and figure out, I think, which is going to be better for New York. But I think it's between these two. Anyway, that's all for now. Any questions in the comments? I love you all. I'm getting near the 1,000 subscribers. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe. Get me over the line, please. It would be a really nice milestone. And just, it will give me that appreciation that I'm doing things that actually people like, and people are getting some stuff out of this. Because otherwise, sometimes you feel a bit down. You wonder if people actually are getting value from what you're putting out there. But hopefully you are. And if I get to 1,000, I'm going to feel like, whoa, come on, Ed, let's have it. That's how I'm going to feel. But I'm talking shit now. And with that, I'll see you later. Bye-bye.